Peter Voulkos' Impact on Ceramics by Elijah Solu. Ceramics and clay sculptures have been around for many years. In fact, it is one of the oldest known art forms to date. It dates back to 10,500 BC in East Asia. Claywork not only is used for a form of art, but it is also used for necessities. For example, ceramics is used for pots and plates, or everyday essentials used in dining rooms or for cooking. There are many different types of clay and materials used in ceramics. For example, the Chinese love to use porcelain for their clay work. The Chinese would make very detailed and prestigious pottery, which often was used for decoration and a show of wealth if one had fine pottery around their house. Peter Voulkos, also known as Panagiotis, is an artist who had an enormous impact on shaping the ceramics game today. He was born in Bozeman, Montana on January 29, 1924. He was the third of 5 siblings. His parents were from Greece and came here in the early 1900s. He was drafted into the United States Army in 1943 for the Second World War to be an airplane armor gunner. Shortly afterwards, he transitioned into his interest of art. He attended Montana State University. He started his ceramics work at Montana State University, where he earned a degree, graduating in 1951. Later, he went on to receive another degree, known as Master in Fine Arts, also known as MFA for short, from California College of Arts and Crafts. This degree is known to be the highest degree in any art form. Afterwards, he came back to Montana and was labeled, quote-unquote, as a prodigious natural potter and producer of elegant thrown functional earthenware by the New York Times. He started selling his art as top-notch plates and dining utensils. He was known to be one of the best ceramic artists at his time, receiving around 29 awards between 1949 and 1955. In 1953, he was sought after by Karen Carnes to teach at the experimental school Black Mountain College in Asheville, North Carolina. This is where Voulkos would redefine his ceramics art style forever. In 1954, Voulkos was asked to start teaching at Otis, an art school based out of Los Angeles, California. This is where Voulkos would get rid of the norm in ceramics and start to create his own new way of doing pottery. He started to build much larger works of art and would stab and hit the clay aggressively. After that, he would then vigorously paint the work he had just done. He would reveal these abstract and new ways of doing ceramics at the Landu Art Gallery in Los Angeles, California. Soon after, in 1959, Voulkos had disagreements with the hierarchies and administrators of Otis because of his unorthodox and profound ways of doing ceramics. That is when Peter decided to go to Cal Berkeley and start teaching up there. Here he started his curiosity in bronze work and made a few bronze pieces while doing so. One bronze sculpture that stood out to me was called Anada. You can see the simplicity in the vase, yet the charismatic and spontaneous features at the same time. You can tell this was a spontaneous piece because of the slashes and the marks that are all on the vase. Some people like Voulkos' bronze work much better than his ceramic work, but although throughout his time doing bronze work, he always kept up with his ceramics. He would travel the United States, presenting his artwork to different towns and cities at art shows and galleries. He would have shows and ceramics exhibitions where he would actually throw clay in front of large audiences or on stage. Ceramics artists and people would come from all over to watch him throw huge pieces of art, in which he would sometimes have to stand on stools or chairs to reach. In fact, he sometimes would throw as much as 150 pounds of clay, which made his sculptures over 6 feet in height, and also gave the audience a show to watch. In 1979, Voulkos met Peter Callis, who made the first Japanese wood kiln in the United States. Voulkos wasn't too sure about this process at the time, but after some convincing by Peter Callis, Voulkos loved this process because he had to make things on the fly, which brought out his well-known creativity and charismatic features. Soon after, in 1985, Voulkos retired from Berkeley. Voulkos was the driving force behind the craft art movement, predominantly known as the American Clay Revolution. He led this revolution along with other clay sculptors and artists like John Mason, Kenneth Price, and Paul Soldner. This movement made new ways of doing traditional ceramics and pottery. It also added new terms into the ceramics community which were not used before. The best thing that happened from this revolution was that a whole new idea and way of thinking about art unfolded. A type that noticed the need to break craft from fine art. Voulkos says the revolution happened because the United States had never had a traditional way of doing pottery like most countries have. For instance, Greek traditional pottery was used in Minoan pottery, or the Chinese in East Asia were known for using porcelain. This was good for him and other artists leading the charge, because it gave them incentive to push the boundaries and new ways of doing pottery that had never been done before. Although Voulkos' art looked far from traditional, he still would use traditional techniques in making his art. He introduced firing clay first, then glazing it. Many people thought of this to be untraditional and unorthodox way to glaze ceramics, but he used the fired clay as a canvas to paint. In fact, most ceramics classes use this type of glazing method to be taught today. Knowing that Peter Voulkos shaped the ceramics world and culture we know today is one of the main reasons I believe he is the best ceramics artist of all time. He has many influential pieces which can be found on the internet. One piece that is my favorite is called Bottle with Face, which he made in 1954 at Otis. You can tell it was an unpromoted art piece, but well detailed at the same time. This wheel throne piece was done in his early career, yet it still shows his awesome nature. The slashes and marks around the bottle are so random, yet fall so perfectly into the piece, along with the face painted on front. I also think the colors work well together. Although they are not the most vibrant colors, I believe that the randomness of the piece shows his natural artistic ability early on in his career. In his final years, his pieces even got more abstract, and many people believe that these final years were his best. In fact, much of his more known pieces were from these last years. He continued to conduct his art shows and exhibitions throughout his final years. On February 16, 2002, Voulkos died of a heart attack, shortly after doing a show at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. All in all, Peter Voulkos' abstract and new ways of doing ceramics is the reason why he is one of the most significant ceramics artists in shaping the 20th century ceramics world.